This is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Today we're going to do a video on how to repair a broken chair rung. So you can see right here, the rung's broken off. It broke off at either leg, and we're going to test fit it and see how it goes back together. And that's going to tell us a lot about how we're going to repair it. Now, I can make one of these, no big deal. I have a lot of experience on the lathe, but I don't see any reason why to charge the customer to make another one of these when I could simply repair the old one. So it seems to be fitting back pretty well. And then over here on the right, I'm going to do a quick adjustment. And then we're going to take a look. And it looks like we got good seams and it'll go back together. Now, if we attach it back together as it is, it'll probably break off again. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some steel in there. That's the way Dan fixes things. He uses adhesive and he uses steel. And we're going to put some screws through the other side. So we're going to start out by drilling a pilot hole. And we have a good long pilot hole bit, and we're going to drill from the broken side, the center of the spindle, and I'm just going to eyeball it, through the chair leg. And this means that when I put my screw through the other side, it's going to come out right at the center of that broken spindle. Now this is the fastener we're going to put in there. It's a 3-inch drywall screw, nothing fancy. And I'm looking at it, and I know if I countersink it a bit, I'll get a good, 2 inches into that spindle. And that'll be strong enough, I believe. So now here I am on the other side. This is the outside of the leg. And remember, I do both legs, but I'm just showing you one leg. And I'm going to do my countersink hole. Now it's time to glue the piece up. Now I'm going to use epoxy. And the reason why I'm using epoxy is it's much stronger than yellow glue or wood glue. I'm using a System 3 Quick Cure 15-minute set. But I never wait just 15 minutes. This chair, I'd probably wait till the next day if I was going to put any pressure on it. So you mix in this particular epoxy 1-to-1 by eye is fine. And right now it's a little awkward because I'm dancing around the camera, trying not to block it. But I'm going to just put equal amounts of the two parts in. Again, read the manufacturer specs on the epoxy and mix it the correct way. And then we're going to just stir it up and we're going to apply it. Now, it may seem like a hard repair, but it really isn't. And it shouldn't be anything that scares you. And if it's broken, you might as well just go ahead and try to fix it. Maybe you get it right. I guess if you watch the video 2 or 3 times, there's not a lot of tools here required. And you're drilling a few holes and you're just gluing a few things together. And my guess is most people can get it done. And that's one of the reasons why I make this video, these types of videos. I don't think there's any great mystery here about the stuff I do. So this is just a little throwaway acid brush, and I'm putting my epoxy in on the ends here. Now, I always apply the adhesive to both parts that are being glued. Okay, I never apply to just one part. I found that sometimes the glue won't adhere to the second part, but if you apply it to both parts, it'll adhere. I'm sped up the video a little bit just because there's no sense in watching this in real time. And we're just a little bit of epoxy right there. And I've prepped myself. I've got my gloves on, and I also have my clamp in the back that you can see, and we'll go through that a little bit. And there's another video on how to make those clamps. They're very helpful in the shop. And I have my denatured alcohol ready that I'm going to use to clean up my epoxy. It's sitting off camera a little bit. So here we go. We're fitting it into that spot. Everything's going back again correctly. We dry fitted it once, so we know this is going to work. And everything should go back just the same because we didn't do anything but drill a few holes. Excellent. And now this is one of my tricks. I always put on 2 pairs of gloves because I get a ton of epoxy on the first pair and I don't want to spread it all over the piece by touching other parts of the piece with epoxy that's stuck on my gloves. So I peel off the first set and I got a clean set right behind it. Now I'm coming back with denatured alcohol and I'm wiping down the excess epoxy. Now, I always like to see glue squeeze out on pieces because I'd rather have extra glue than have it be short glue or adhesive or whatever you want to call this stuff. Now, the epoxy, the denatured alcohol is going to turn the varnish a little bit white on this, but I know I'm going to have to do a little bit of touch up afterwards. And I'm going to spray a little varnish back on it. It is a lacquer, and I know that will reactivate it and get rid of the white. If you're at all worried, then I believe white vinegar will clean up the epoxy, or you could read, again, the manufacturer's specs on what to use to clean the the particular adhesive off with. Now, this is what we call a Dan clamp, believe it or not, in my shop. It's kind of a cheesy little clamp that I've added some blocks to, but it works very good in applications like this. So I'm not using it much to create pressure or anything like that. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of holding these two pieces in place while I set the screws. So what I don't want is I don't want the screws to push the piece apart. Now I drill pilot holes, so that really shouldn't be an issue, but this is just a little bit of extra insurance right there that it's going to be nice and tight. Okay, we got our clamp on. We've turned the piece. This is the outside of the leg, and what we're going to have to do now is pilot hole. We have the pilot hole through the leg, but we have to pilot a hole into the spindle, or else when we try to put that screw in, there's a good chance it's going to split that spindle. So I got my long drill bit. The pilot hole is just going to follow along. The drill bit's just going to follow along the existing hole, and it's going to give us right into the center of that spindle where we want to be. Nice and slow, and then I go back and forth a few times and pull out some of the wood, and then once I feel like I'm deep enough, I'm good to go. Now I do this a little different. I don't want this hole to be extraordinarily tight, and the reason is I'm not trying to hold it together so much as to just add to the structure. And I'm going to have a little trick I show you right here about how I make the screw even stronger in there. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my leftover epoxy. It hasn't hardened yet. I've been working pretty quick. And I'm going to coat the end of the screw with it. So this is going to do a couple things. One, it keeps me from having to make the pilot hole too tight where it could split the spindle. So I can make it a little bit looser. The other thing is the epoxy is going to run around those threads as that screw goes in, coat the screw, coat the inside hole. When it dries, it's all going to become one very strong unit. And believe it or not, the epoxy is a little bit rubbery even when it's dry. So it's going to keep the screw from worrying on the inside of the wood too much. There's not going to be a lot of vibration or stress, but this is something that can get kicked a lot and hit a lot and keep the screw from damaging the spindle from the inside out. So it's almost like putting a little bit of a rubber sheathing around it, but making it stick nice and hard. Here I got a little bit of touch up to do where that little piece had stayed intact, but the other side looks very good. I don't think there's going to be any touch up needed there. On either side, I'm going to have these screw holes to fill. You can do that with a plug. I'm going to do that with a little moldable epoxy putty. We're going to show you that in another video. But all in all, give this a day, a little bit of touch up. It's ready for the Thanksgiving dinner again. Thanks so much for watching. This is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Every time we restore a piece, it doesn't go into the landfill, even when we just fix a broken chair rung like this. And one less tree is getting cut down to make new ones. And that's all good stuff in this world. Feel free to leave comments below, ask questions. If there's a video you'd like me to do, throw it in the comment section. You want to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about? That's happened to me a lot in my life. I got no problem with that. But at the end of the day, don't let this stuff scare you. It's not as hard as it looks. And if you're not successful, big deal. It was already broken to begin with. You can give it another shot. Y'all have a good day.